power forward position. What kind of role does Miles Bridges have on the team this year? Plus, is this position staying or clanging? What kind of depth do they have at power forward? We'll get to all of that today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Appreciate you making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcasts, and that includes YouTube. Doug, were you yawning immediately upon starting the show, or were you excited?
Well, no, it was not a yawn. It was a stretch.
Like a yawn.
It was a stretch. It was I was getting ready. Got to be limber for this show. Got to be on my toes. Ready for your nonsense. Ready to smack down your arguments.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
I don't want to pull anything in the process.
It looked like you were yawning and stretching, like you were just getting out of bed, or that you were really bored with my intro immediately, which could have been the case. That's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Also, I got to tell you, this episode, it's brought to you by Game Time. Game Time? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You ready to dive into the power forward position here, Doug?
I'm loose, baby. I'm loose. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, you're all stretched and yawned out. Let's talk about the power forward spot here, with Miles Bridges clearly being the guy. You know, we've had the position versatility conversation with each of the last two positions that we've previewed. Not so much point guard, but with shooting guard, it's Brandon Miller, Josh Green. With small forward, it's Brandon Miller, Cody Martin, Miles Bridges. Like, you still have this string of where these guys are going to play, but I do feel pretty solid about Miles being the starting power forward here, right? Like, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me, even with him having that versatility to go to the 3 spot. We saw him play a different role. You went over some of the ISO numbers last year. He was healthy. He's as healthy a player as they've had in the last couple of seasons. PJ Washington 2 years ago was basically that role player for them, but then he gets traded. So now it's Miles as the Iron Miles, if you will, going out there and playing pretty much every game. Steve Clifford lauded his ability to go out there and not only play every game, but Doug, he played a boatload of minutes in the NBA, like one of the league leaders in minutes played, especially for the amount of games that he was out there on the court for. Offensively, the kind of role that he had, it was high usage. We don't know if that's the best suit for him anymore, but maybe he could still be a guy that gives you, 17, 18 points per game with Brandon's ascension, with LaMelo. I think he's going to have a monster year, and so there's only so many basketballs to go around. But an interesting position, again, that we have here with Miles, you know, going into a new role with a new coach, with guys that are healthy around him. What's the big question you have with Miles Bridges?
Well, I think one of the big questions I have really revolves not on the court, but off the court. Can this be a distraction-free season for Miles Bridges? No headlines that don't involve him doing good things on the basketball court, because there have been a lot of those in years past, and now he has his contract. It's not the contract probably that he and his team exactly wanted with the Charlotte Hornets, but he is getting paid. And so now it's time for him to show up and make things happen for the Charlotte Hornets. And you're right, he has been an Iron Man. He has been somebody that they could count on to get, ISO buckets. But he tried to expand his game last season in terms of taking more mid-range shots. And those were some frustrating possessions, particularly where he had to take over. He was a little turnover prone when he was trying to make those ISO possessions happen, back down. He would get quickly double teamed and cough the ball up. So those are all things that you wonder if they're really going to carry over to this season, because a lot of that was happening because, they were playing Trey Mann and Vasiljevic at the point guard position late in the season as opposed to LaMelo Ball. So does some of that change? How does he adjust to moving into like a third option as opposed to, even though Brandon Miller scored 17 points per game last season, like Miles was the go-to guy, was the main option without LaMelo Ball on the floor. And so you would assume that this team is going to move to LaMelo Brandon as like a 1-2 option. How does Miles adjust to going to be a third option? Those are a few of the questions that I have.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see what Miles is able to do offensively, defensively this year in Charles Lee's scheme. And not to get too ahead of ourselves here, because we need to have this first segment for Miles, but I wonder if also you rely so much on a guy who actually has a player that will be among the first off of the bench at his position in Grant Williams. So if Grant Williams is going in, who has been a better three-point shooter, not near the usage, but also can be a good passer, we know he's turnover prone. I actually like Miles' vision. We've seen the assist percentage. Those numbers have been good for Miles the entire time, really. But yeah, like, how much do you have to rely on him this year like you did last year? I think the clear answer is not nearly as much with Brandon and LaMelo, and even Mark is a lob threat, but really Brandon and LaMelo hopefully being healthy and Brandon taking that next step. But also, Grant Williams wasn't here the entire season, right? You trade for him at the deadline, and like, now does Grant allow Miles to take a rest? And also, like, as we're trying to find that athleticism that Miles claims is back, does more rest allow for him to dunk more and get to the rim more and just have fresh legs in general? Like, I think those are a few things working in favor for Miles to be a more efficient basketball player, even if it takes away from some of the volume.
More rest and I think less defensive responsibility. We've talked about Josh Green a lot in terms of taking some of the defensive responsibility away from LaMelo Ball, guarding, the team's best guard and allowing you to hide LaMelo Ball a little bit. But I think there are going to be certain situations too where Josh Green can move up. I mean, that's, his big selling point is defensive versatility. He could move up and guard, a forward that maybe Miles Bridges would have had to take on in years past, guarding the best offensive player on the other team. And so what does that open up for him offensively? What does that open up for him energy-wise? Because, durability is not a question with Miles so far. Although I will say, I was thinking about it this morning, I knew we were going to come on here and talk about Miles being Iron Miles from last season. But I am, and this is the trauma, the sicko, the all of the things that are going on in my body because of the Hornets. But I'm fully prepared for everyone else to be healthy this season and Miles off the contract to have a weird injury season. And I hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, my body is fully ready for that kind of irony to sit over this season.
Ooh, irony. Yeah, especially
irony Miles
get it?
Instead of Iron Miles.
Yeah. Irony Miles. Is that what we have on our hands this year? That's the kind of luck that the Hornets have experienced so far the past couple of seasons. Let's continue this conversation. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Is the power forward position stangin' or clangin'? We'll get to the pieces, the depth pieces here. Tidjane Salaun, we get to talk about the rookie this position preview as well. So we'll spend a lot of time on the 6th overall selection. Coming up next, LOH. Before we talk a little more about the power forward, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time.
Game Time.
Game Time. Nice. I like that. It has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks, you can have curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and even more than that. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, plus seat views, lowest price guarantee, and game time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time! More Locked On Hornets ahead. Finishing Miles thoughts, Doug. What's the cherry on top of the Miles Bridges combo?
Well, that he gets to start this season just playing, right? He had to miss 10 games to begin the season and then, took a little time to kind of get in gear. None of that is the case. So if he does, he says he has his bounce back. He says he's retiring from music too, which I think is great. Like,
Did he really? I did not see that. Are you serious?
I saw that on Twitter that he was going to release something and then he was done with music, which, look, I don't have any opinions on the quality of his music. I'm not qualified to make those kind of opinions, okay? But I am qualified to understand that the focus needs to be on basketball if the Hornets are going to be successful. I mean, that's the thing is, this Hornets team is going to struggle enough to be good this season. They need no distractions. No distractions from music, no distractions from any – and it just doesn't go for Miles as well. I mean, LaMelo has had his share of a couple of headlines that weren't too positive. So, like, just no distractions. Everybody just kind of be on their best behavior, and let's see if this Hornets team can do something. Give this front office and this ownership group a fair chance to evaluate what you can do on the floor without distractions off the floor. So I'm happy about all that.
Well, okay, that's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because I see that Miles said on Twitter that he is going to drop something and then retire from music, and he said that on September 17th.
Uh-huh.
On September 16th, there was a video out there of a Miles Bridges freestyle in which immediately we get to some explicit stuff where Adam Silver, anybody surrounding Miles Bridges might raise an eyebrow and be like, dog, it's a little too soon. I know time is going to make us forget a lot about this, and maybe not forget, but certainly the pressure is going to be off of you. But dog, some of the lyrics in here, like, I don't care if athletes want to put out music. I don't care at all. Like, for me, if Miles wants to put out music, fine. But I would also say, let's be a little more careful. If I was a part of his PR team, I would say let's be a little more careful, which is interesting because maybe that happened. September 16th, freestyle, explicit content. The next day, hey, I'm retiring from music. I just wonder if somebody got to him after he put that video out there that, you know, some people didn't receive all that well. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing. You can have all kinds of extracurricular activities if you actually accomplish something on the basketball floor. That's my opinion about things. Like Dame Lillard, I have no problem with Dame going out there and trying to be, you know, because there is a life after basketball, by the way. But I think you should make the main thing the main thing. That's really what I'm saying. Like, if you want to have a hobby, that's fine. Pursue your hobby. But, you know, my whole thing is, if you want to have a music career, maybe be a great basketball player first and then have the music career. That's my thing. Make the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, don't take it away from Dame. Is like sick with it, though. Don't take it away from Dame.
But here's the thing. I don't care about quality. I know. I'm not qualified to make those opinions, okay? What I'm saying is Dame accomplished something. Dame won playoff games and playoff series. I think he won playoff series, right? And then did the music.
I think either way. Dame Dollar. I like Dame Dollar. All right. Power forward. I don't know about Tidjane Salaun dropping any rap albums, though. I'd be interested in hearing it. Also, there is another tangent that we could go on with the video that the Hornets dropped about who do you least want to have control of the aux. And Salaun also, like, he was mentioned maybe once or twice because it's French music and they just don't understand it. But I think like KJ or somebody was saying, you know, give me a little time. I'll rock with it. I just can't understand it right now. So is Salaun that, like, what's the next conversation to have here? You tell me. Is it about Grant Williams, who might be your 6th, 7th man, depending on how much you value some of the backup point guards? Or is it Salaun? Is that the conversation to have next because he's your rookie?
I think we're pretty sure we know what a Grant Williams is. We have no idea at this point what a Tidjane Salaun is. So I think the more interesting conversation is going to be the rookie. What role does he play? Does he have any role this season? Because he was the youngest player coming out of this draft and looked every bit of the raw prospect that we expected him to look like in somewhat limited summer league action because of a laceration on his knee that kept him out of the first bit of that summer. And then we saw him a little bit in Vegas, and you saw some things where you go, wow, look at him running that transition. Look at him, what he was able to move his feet and stay with somebody one-on-one on defense. When he was moving in transition, he looked a little bit of like the echoes of freakiness. Giannis. Like, he was looking like, oh man, I can see the promise. And then as summer went on and guys were able to adjust to him a little bit, he was starting to run. He was trying to run ahead of the break, and he was turning it over constantly and looking every bit the raw prospect. So I don't know. Typically, when a guy is drafted as high as Tidjane was drafted on a team that lost as many games as the Hornets lost last season, you would expect Tidjane or any rookie to get some playing time. But this Hornets team is bringing back some veteran players, some players that have been on this team for a while too. And I think they're going to try to win some games. And I'm not sure that really jives with playing a rookie that looks like he needs some time in Greensboro.
Yeah, Doug, I don't see a whole lot of playing time for Salaun, and I've been more convinced of that even after he was drafted. And I know the summer league stint for him was actually pretty positive. I think we walked away thinking there was some disaster potential. That did not happen. He was a really good rebounder. The motor is there, all of the motor, right? That was the big thing. That was their selling point about why they selected Salaun in the first place. I think he's a clumsy ball handler. When we were comparing him with Giannis was much more in control of the basketball than what Salaun is. But I think the idea is like, here you have a locomotive that can handle it a little bit and go coast to coast and finish at the rim. I just think when Charles Lee is trying to win basketball games and he's trying to organize a defense and he wants guys in the right spots, he's going to rely on Miles, Grant Williams, maybe even Taj Gibson, who can not only be in the right spot, but might even be able to control the back line along with Mark Williams. Like now you're going with somebody that's calling out what everybody else should be doing to somebody that doesn't know what he should be doing with Salaun and Gibson. The difference is there. I think when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to trusting the players, what are you going to give me on the court? You know what you're going to get with all these other guys if they want to win basketball games. I think Salaun is going to be the rare 6th overall pick in at least recent memory, maybe even distant recent memory, that will not get nearly as much playing time. We could be seeing the lowest amount of healthy minutes for a 6th overall pick compared to other 6th overall picks in the last 10 years.
Right, but I mean, you could view this as a draft and stash, except you're not stashing in Europe, you're stashing in Greensboro, which is going to be a little bit of a culture shock probably for Tidjane Salaun. He's trading in the bistros of Paris for Printworks Bistro in Greensboro. 4.7 stars on Google. So maybe,
Sweet.
very good food and drinks in a very chic, upscale atmosphere. So there you go, Tidjane. That might be your spot. But listen, I don't think that fans should be discouraged by that. The Hornets took a flyer, okay? And so they're going to have to reap some of that when, you're talking about a guy that needs to significantly develop his body and significantly develop learning how to use that body within the context of the NBA game. And he's going to have to learn that in Greensboro because to put him out there now with this team would be, I think, an insult to the veteran players that they have on this roster. We got to get the guy that we took 6th overall playing time. It would just disrupt a lot of, I think, what is trying to be established in Charlotte. I think Charles Lee is going to have guys earn their playing time. So look, if Tidjane comes into camp and he looks like a completely different player than we saw in Summer League, absolutely, there's an opportunity. Yeah. I would just think the odds of that, based on what I saw out of Summer League, are low. And he's going to spend some time in Greensboro. Injuries could happen. He could be forced into the action. The Hornets could decide, hey, we want to keep that lottery-protected first-round pick, and so we're going to trade a few folks. Maybe Grant Williams gets dealt, maybe Miles Bridges gets dealt, and then Tidjane Salaun step on up, get some playing time in the back half post All-Star break portion of the season. All of that is on the table. But if you're talking about how are the Hornets going to open up the season, I can't see Salaun getting really any minutes at all.
Oh, so let's ask this question before I have some Grant thoughts, and then we can do the fun with lineup data. But with Salaun, what is the path for playing time? And we can't talk about injuries. For me, defensively figuring some stuff out, just to put it simply. I also think, how many threes can you knock down? Because if you're not going to ask Salaun to do a lot offensively with how many people are out there that you trust, can you knock down corner threes? Can you chill out in the dunker spot and do what you're told and just go up and get the lob from LaMelo or Brandon or whoever's attacking the basket? Like, let's keep this simple as much as possible for Salaun. And if you can be a lob threat in the dunker spot, and really if you can knock down some 3-point baskets, I think that's the path to like being the ninth guy. Like 8, 9 in spots. I expect a lot of DNP CDs. I expect if he does play, even if he does play, Doug, I expect it to be a few games and then a few games he's not playing. It's like a 9-man rotation hopeful for me instead of an 8-man rotation hopeful for me.
Yeah, his early success, and really I think his success overall with the Charlotte Hornets will depend on this. Can he understand that what happens in Summer League and what happens in Greensboro is going to be one thing, where he's going to be let loose and he can go 100 miles an hour, which is what, like, that's how he was overseas. That's how he's always developed. He's going to play hard and he's going to take shots when he has them, and he is going to go 1,000 miles an hour. Can he understand that that's one thing? And then when he gets inserted into an NBA lineup, that's another thing, that the responsibilities are going to be significantly different. You use the word chill out in the dunker spot. I would just take away dunker spot and say, is he going to be able, once he's inserted into an NBA lineup, can he just chill out? Can he chill out at in the corner three spot? Can he chill out when he gets the ball in his hands and not take a wild step back three that we've seen all over his game? Because there's something inside of him right now that is screaming, I want to be an NBA star. I've seen players from France get into Hall of Fame status. I've got all, and my body is crazy. My body is incredible. I can do these amazing things. There's something burning inside of him, and that will serve him well as he continues to develop if he can control it as he's doing this early development portion. Because when he goes to Greensboro, he's going to be wild, man. We're going to see all kinds of like crazy highlights. It's going to be all over your X feed. It's going to be everywhere. And people are going to go, why can't this guy get playing time? It's going to be the same conversations we had about Kai Jones. And when Kai Jones got his opportunities, and Tidjane will get his opportunities, maybe not this season, but next season, when he gets those opportunities, what does he do with them? Because Kai Jones got inserted into the lineup and couldn't get past the Kai Jones is like point God, going to go crazy and couldn't understand where to be on defense or how to control that. And, he was taking step back corner threes and spitting in the corner and turning the ball over. And he was just playing out of control. Can Tidjane, when he gets his moment, play in control? That helped Miles too, by the way. Go back to Miles' rookie year. And that wasn't Miles Bridges that we saw at Michigan State. We saw a completely different kind of Miles Bridges early in his career. He was able to control it and develop the way that the team needed him to develop.
Okay, let's get to some more power forward, the finishing thoughts on the power forward position coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Speed's everywhere!
Also have some fun with lineup data. Doug has been bringing the stats for your face, and so he throws them at you in the next segment. Coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Are we doing Bet the Buzz again, Doug, or are we not going to do that so we don't have another project we don't finish?
Oh, no, we're betting the Buzz. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We're going to bet the Buzz, and they're going to stay healthy, and it's all going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay.
Okay, at least through the first 2 weeks, we'll bet the Buzz. FanDuel.com. Again, go to FanDuel.com. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets. Okay, rapid fire here because I want to finish in a timely manner. Grant Williams' thoughts. You're right in that we know what we have in Grant, no doubt about it. I will say it was interesting to see how different the advanced metrics were with Grant Williams when he played for the Hornets compared to any other team that he played for in his NBA career, right? So we go to usage. He had never had a usage percentage above the 30th percentile, regardless of the position that it was listed at. Forward, big, it didn't matter. Charlotte, boom, 80th percentile. Like Grant was doing stuff. They
stuff.
Out of a necessity, they had Grant Williams doing stuff. Points per shot attempt. Weird career for Grant in that regard, but finished above average. Assist percentage. Not really the best passer in the world. He was fine with the other stops with Dallas and Boston. Boom. 85th percentile assist percentage. Like Steve Clifford kind of unlocked a little bit of what he was able to do, just passing the basketball really in the high post. What you saw from him, looking at some shooting accuracy as well. Shooting at the rim, Doug, pretty terrible in the previous 2 seasons, or I should say the previous season also was not very good with Dallas. 95th percentile among all bigs Like, even at his size, like, think about that. Not a tall basketball player playing in the post. He's girthy. We know that. But he's not very tall. And yet he was in the 95th percentile. Like, it is interesting to see how much these numbers are going to level out compared to what they had been with Boston and maybe the first half of Dallas. More so Boston, because it's not like you play with the Mavs all that often. But the numbers, like, they weren't even different in some cases. They were wildly different. So with the Miles Bridges role, what is that going to be going into this year? What are we going to get from Grant offensively? I find that like a sub interesting question where it's not even so sub. Like it's I don't know. I find the numbers interesting there with Grant.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to be the sixth man. Now, he got a ton of center minutes last season, where because you had injuries to Nick Richards, Mark Williams was out for a significant period of time. So, he got a lot of play there. He got probably a lot more minutes than, I think any of us thought that would be a thing once they traded for him. So, yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with it. And then, for Grant, the passing wasn't just out of the high post. I mean, they would run him. It was just post position, and he could pass out of that too, and he could switch sides of the floor. I mean, I was really impressed with his passing. So I'm high on Grant Williams. I mean, I'm expecting big things from him. He's happy to be here. He wasn't happy to be in Dallas. That was a bad situation for him, and he loves playing for the hometown team. He's very involved in the community, and I just think happy Grant is good Grant, and I'm excited to see what happens there.
Last thing though, remember like that first maybe couple of weeks he was playing for the Hornets, the rebounding percentage was also a lot higher, which was very unlike him. Yeah, that went down. So he's one of the worst rebounders in the league at his size. Some of it is boxing guys out and making sure your guy doesn't get it, which is great, but it's still, when he's out there, if he's playing small ball 5, you're going to relinquish a lot of rebounds to the other team. And that's your Mark Williams is a great offensive rebounder, even defensive rebounder. I think he was fine enough, but there's times where physicality will win out. So anyways, those are some Grant thoughts. Stangin or clangin? I think this position is kind of stangin here, Doug, for the sheer like intrigue of it all. Grant, depth piece. Miles, what's his role going to be? Salaun, rookie, wild card, just wacky wailing, inflatable arm flailing tube man. Is he just going to roll at you like a crazy person? Staying in power forward position.
I agree. I think they've got someone in Miles that there's things left to be unlocked. Like I'll take him at his word that he's got his bounce back. I don't think that we're going to see the same Miles pre all of the felony domestic violence charges, that the Miles that they were ready to sign to a max contract. I don't think that guy's ever coming back. But I think there are things to unlock with him now that he's gotten, this offseason. He's going to go right into playing games, and he's going to have LaMelo Ball back. Like we saw a little bit of clutch Miles when he was able to play with LaMelo, hitting big shots against Boston early in the season. So I think there are some things left to unlock, and I'm high on Grant Williams. I'm neutral on Tidjane Salaun. I'm ready for the Greensboro Swarm highlights. And then, you've got also Taj Gibson in this sort of center power forward hovering role too, which I'm just glad that they've added a little bit of depth there.
Harry Giles.
Giles. Yeah, throw Giles in there too. Why not?
Yeah, Harry Giles. That's our analysis. Harry Giles.
Harry Giles.
Let's go with the what if game. Who are the players available for our what if game, Doug?
Marvin Williams, Spencer Hawes, Tyler Hansbrough. They jump out of the portals from 2015-16 off of that playoff series, and we've got to work these guys, maybe one of them, maybe multiple of them, into the lineup. We've got 3 spots here. So, let's just, for the sake of this, let's just say Salaun is going to Greensboro. He's locked into like a Greensboro spot. We don't have to deal with him. But of the Grant Williams, Miles Bridges, and this group of power forwards that I just mentioned, who are you going with?
It's Marvin, and who are the other two?
Spencer Hawes and Tyler Hansbrough.
Okay, so really it's Marvin or Miles Bridges as the starter that you want. For me, do you want to be dynamic at this spot? If that's the case, you get Miles. If you want safe and sound defense, knocking down threes at a high enough level, where Marvin was always weird. I think he do the like 35%, 40, 35, 40. Like I think he rocked back and forth through really good 3-point shooter to, like solid to maybe right there at average 3-point shooter. man, who are the stars that we have with the spots that we filled out so far? We have LaMelo, Kemba. Like, so whoever your point guard is, it's dynamic. Your shooting guard, we've got Brandon Miller coming off of the bench. Or no, that's small forward Brandon off of the bench to like be your spark plug. So we have Nick Batum. At 2, do we have Courtney Lee starting at the 2 spot?
Well, we did, but I cheated last time and said I would
gotcha.
go LaMelo, Batum, Brandon, and then at the power forward position, I'll be honest, I'm starting Marvin. I just think the defense, his ability to coordinate the defense would work well with Charles Lee. You know, I think there are still questions there around Miles's ability to consistently defend across the season. There would be no questions for Marvin. You know, he's going to give you some three-point shooting. Again, a little bit more consistent three-point shooting, a little bit more responsible three-point shooting. So, you know, I'm taking, you know, Miles and Lee as some bench pieces. We're going to get some depth there. And then, and 2, like, this is tough because I know at the center position, I know it's coming. I mean, you could throw Frank Kaminsky into this conversation, by the way. I mean, he played 1,700 minutes for that 15-16 team, 7.5 points, 3.3 win shares, could hit some threes too, but I don't think he's factoring into this conversation much. So, yeah, I mean, I would go Marvin and then Miles coming off the bench and Grant Williams is the depth piece.
I think I'm with you, but the Miles, like, think about how dynamic that would be if you had Miles in that lineup as well. So that would be the only thing that it'd be interesting. It's like, oh man, we got a lot of firepower here. Like we are rolling offensively. We can do a bunch of stuff. But Marvin, I think, does open you up a little more for LaMelo driving lanes. Like think about that, just having him at the 3-point line. And yeah, I think I'm with you for the most part. All right, let's have some fun with lineup data. What kind of stats are you bringing for the people?
All right, so I pulled up some lineup data from last season, and there weren't many lineups that got over 100 minutes, which is what qualifies for some stats that we can get from cleaning the glass in terms of points per possession, points per 100 possession, and the differential can kind of give us some intel about how these lineups did. And I'm looking at this lineup data, and I'm really seeing a trend. And that trend is that these lineups that got over 100 possessions, they either... Well, look, you know, we play Stangen or Klangen. We've already played it, and I don't even think Stangen or Klangen does this justice. These lineups either got their teeth kicked in or they were Showtime Hornets. Like, there was no in between. In terms of, like, differential percentile, there's no, like, average lineup. There is either they excelled, which wasn't very often, or they got their teeth kicked in. So I thought we could play a little quick, fun game of teeth kicked in or Showtime Hornets.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so first lineup is the lineup that played the most minutes last season, 231 possessions. Well, I don't know minutes, but 231 possessions. It was Vasa Micic, Trey Mann, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Grant Williams at center. That's right, folks. Of all the lineups last season, Grant Williams at center was the most possessions played last season, teeth kicked in or excelled.
So it's Vasa, Trey, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams is the lineup. Man, I'm pretty sure that the numbers were pretty good with Grant at center offensively, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to go with Showtime Hornets.
That's incorrect. This lineup got its teeth kicked in maybe more than any other lineup if you look at just like possessions and the differential together. This one was a minus 17.7. That means if you roll the ball out, folks, and you do 100 possessions, which is about your average for an NBA game this past couple seasons. If you roll the ball out for 100 possessions, the Hornets were getting beat by nearly 18 points with that lineup on the floor. All right, next one.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
This game is really set up to embarrass you if you get it wrong, because it's not like, oh, you just missed it. This game really is. It's opposite ends of the spectrum. So really what we're playing is here's a grenade, Walker. I'm going to ask you embarrassing questions if you get it wrong. Yeah. Don't screw up. That's what this game is.
Yeah, for sure. So this one really defensively was terrible. And it goes back to what you were saying with Grant Williams and rebounding and the issues that they had defending bigger teams. Think about when they played like Utah. They beat Minnesota late in the season, but they struggled with them as well in terms of just stopping them. Defensively, they were awful with that lineup. All right, here's another one. Trey Mann, Cody Martin, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Nick Richards, 210 possessions played. Did they get their teeth kicked in or did they kick bleep?
Who was the power forward?
Power forward was Miles Bridges.
Now I don't want to get it wrong, but I Nick Richards at the center spot, Trey Mann, maybe defensively you had some things going for you with Cody Martin. I'm gonna go with Klangen lineup.
Teeth kicked in. You are correct. They got their teeth absolutely kicked in. Minus 8.6 points per possession differential, and that was 19th percentile. It's one of the worst lineups in the league. And they did great defensively. They were in the 71st percentile defensively, but offensively, they absolutely could not score with this lineup. All right, here we go. Let's do another one. I think we can get two more in. Vasa Micic, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams at the 4, and Alexei Pokashevsky at the 5. 142 possessions played.
I think I saw a stat where Poku minutes actually turned out well enough for the Hornets. I'm going to go staying in here because of what I think I remember about Poku lineups.
Are you sure?
I'll go staying in. I'm going staying in.
That's right. That is correct. They kicked some teeth in as opposed to getting their teeth kicked in. This was a plus 6.1 lineup. Not the best, but second best. And they were not very good offensively. 39th percentile, but 76th percentile defensively. That lineup was able to stop some folks with Poku and G. Will and Miles Bridges sizing up at the 3, Brandon Miller sizing up at the 2. That gives you a future idea of maybe a playoff team that could do that and go Miles Bridges 3, even though we've been talking about him at 4, sizing up there. That's really interesting.
This team's going to be huge. That's going to be fun to just have arms all around the basketball court.
What about the starting lineup, projected starting lineup for the season? LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, P.J. Washington. Well, it was projected because Miles Bridges wasn't available in the first 10 games. And Mark Williams. Teeth kicked in, or were they kicking teeth in?
Ooh, well, it has to, I'm going to say they got their teeth kicked in. I think they were clanging because at the beginning of the season, it was going poorly for the Hornets. So I'm going to go clanging.
That's correct. This was the 7th percentile, legitimately one of the worst lineups in the league at minus 19.4. They were getting beat by nearly 20 points per possession. Offensively, they couldn't stop anyone, 129.1, and offensively, they weren't doing much better. All right, final one really quickly. LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Gordon Hayward at 3, Miles Bridges at 4, and Mark Williams at 5. So you've got a LaMelo Ball, B. Mill, Bridges, Mark Williams lineup here for 109 possessions. Barely made the cut.
Say what Miles is in this one, you said?
Miles is at 4. This is LaMelo, B. Mill, Miles, Mark Williams, and Gordon Hayward at 3.
Yeah, I think this one's staying in because you had, as opposed to the previous lineup, that's when LaMelo was rusty, the numbers weren't good, and Miles wasn't back. And then when Miles comes back and you see like a very limited sample size, they started to turn things around before LaMelo got hurt, staying in lineup.
This was the best of possessions. Yeah. This was the best of over 100 possessions. This was the best, plus 10. They were amazing defensively. They were not very good offensively, but they were amazing defensively. And I'll give you one other quick thing. 39.3% offensive rebounding percentage. That was 97th percentile among 5-man lineups in the league. One of the better offensive rebounding percentages. We're going to be talking about center soon. Please come back, Mark Williams.
Mark was an absolute force, offensive rebounding. And we know Miles is a good rebounder. Like when you have Miles at 5 Miles at 4 and Mark at 5, it's a very different type of skill set you're bringing in with Grant there. But rebounding wise, it's going to be. There are some fun things to watch with this squad, and it's why Zach Lowe said they should be a league pass candidate.
Just really quickly, one of the worst turnover lineups of these 5-man lineups that had over 100 possessions was a lineup with Trey Mann, Brandon Miller, Davis Bertans, Grant Williams, and Nick Richards. So Trey Mann at point
makes
guard.
All the sense in the world. That makes all the sense in the world.
Trey Mann at point guard, not great.
Well, Trey actually had some decent number. I mean, Grant Williams, I have to imagine, affected those numbers a lot too. Like he was, he had some bad turnover games. I bet
that was, in fact, that lineup that I just shared there, 144 possessions. That was the worst lineup for the Hornets last season at a minus 23. There are some ones that didn't make the cut here. 82 possessions. Vasa, B. Mill, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, Nick Richards, that was a -39. I mean, look, bottom line, folks, it wasn't a great year. There was a lot of teeth getting kicked in for the Hornets.
Advanced metrics, they do not like it when you turn the ball over. They weigh that heavily. So if you turn it over, then you're not going to have the best lineup numbers. All right, that'll do it. Thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Hornets. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. You can also check us out on YouTube. You can also check Doug out on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.